Hey, welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and of course I sit with my bud, Tony. What's up, man?
What's going on? Oh, now I'm just your bud, not your best bud anymore.
My best bud.
Right.
Sorry. My best bud, Tone.
I've been demoted. You got a new best bud?
Not sitting with me. Stupid.
What's going on, brother?
Nothing, man. Today's podcast is exciting. We once again, it's kind of like, we talked to Graham Webb and we talked to Trevor. It's kind of like a life rung because this guy has kind of like indirectly been in our life a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the lineage and his family has been in our industry for a while as well.
Certainly in ours, yeah, right.
Yeah, and they've impacted the DC metropolitan area in a good way, and so yeah,
and absolutely. I mean, he didn't shy away from the industry and kind of made a name for himself, and he started like the first men's grooming. I don't know, men's.
I can recall.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, like when I heard I was actually like, I remember when Peruz reached out to me and he was like, yeah, we're doing this thing. And I was kind of like, that sounds weird. I've never heard of it. Like I've never heard of like this men's, market. Again, we'll get into it, but it had to be 15 years ago, right? 15 years ago?
Probably more than that.
Probably more than that, right? So, I mean, it was the first time that I kind of heard about like the men's space, right?
Right.
And especially a men's space in a high level kind of area, not being like your $5 barber. And I kind of like hold them responsible almost in at least from my vision in restarting kind of that space.
100%. I'm totally excited how all that got started. So
should we get in?
So
today we're talking to Michael Gilman, and Michael started the Grooming Lounge, which again in the DC area was the first kind of like men's. Again, I don't even know what the word is. Barbershop or beauty shop or beauty salon. I don't know. I don't even know where this
beauty.
Men's beauty. I'm sure he'll correct us, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So,
but that's toward the latter years. I mean, his family's been in the industry way before that. So
absolutely. So should we get in?
Yeah.
So Mr. Michael Gilman, founder of the Grooming Lounge, welcome to your day off.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. I'm glad we finally got to do it because I know that we've been sitting on this for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I remember when you guys first started, and you guys have blown up. So now I'm honored that you'll actually have me on. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm honored that you said that because the industry certainly has been very, very, very kind to us. So
yeah,
thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you to the industry as well.
Yeah. Bless.
So Michael, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rockville, Maryland. So DC suburbs.
He's one of us.
Yeah,
one of our homies.
Right.
Are you guys from Frederick?
Well, we grew up in Montgomery County. Okay. I grew up in Montgomery County as well. Like I grew up between like Silver Spring and Gaithersburg.
Sure. Okay.
I grew up in PG County, and then my junior year of high school, I moved out to Montgomery County, and that's when I met Corey.
Okay. Oh wow, you guys.
My best bud over here, man.
Best buds ever since. Well, we were until today.
Now we're just buds.
I just found out.
Stupid. So enough about us, Tony. Michael, so how did you find the industry, or the industry found you, or were you born into it? Give us that jazz.
Yeah. So, not boring you with too much information, but I was born into it and grew up in it. My grandfather, in the late 1930s, started Davidson Beauty Supply, which is a distributorship, which is now was part of Alberto Culver, and has been part of this roll up of all these distributorships. But he started in 1939, and eventually my dad Ken took the business over and really exploded it into a powerhouse up and down the East Coast. And while I only worked there for about a year right before they sold the business, because I wanted to be part of the family business at some point. I grew up in it because I, worked all the hair shows they had, and me and my idiot friends would screw up their inventory during the summer, things like that, dinner table conversation. So while I'm not a hairdresser, I wish I had the talent to do that. I really just don't have that part of my mind doesn't work. I wish I could. I grew up, in and around salons, on a weekly basis from the time I was 5 years old, doing stuff with my folks.
Wow, that's cool. How many at the peak? Do you know how many stores that Davidson's had up and down these coasts?
I think they almost had 40 stores, and they had maybe close to 200 or more employees. I might be lowballing that, but I think they might have more employees than that. But they were everywhere from like right below New York all the way down to South Carolina in terms of coverage with some significant brands.
It's funny, as a young male teenager, you're either in like when you're at these hair shows because all these these women, or you're just totally scared and embarrassed, and you're like you want to hide your face,
or both.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man.
So, all right. So your dad took over.
Yep.
And he, like you said, he exploded the business.
Yep.
At what point did
well, even before that, I mean, where was, like, before your dad exploded the business, like how many, what did your grandfather do? Like, how did he find the market and stuff? Do you know that story?
Yeah, it's really an awesome, cool business story of just a guy who was just a business guy. He wasn't a hairdresser. My grandfather, Harry, who was a terrific guy. I guess that's a good name for my grandfather, Harry, in like the late 30s, he got a job working for somebody who was making like permanent wave rods or papers, I think it was at that time, and bobby pins. And he was a salesperson for them. And he was doing it around the DC area. He lived, like near 14th Street or somewhere down there. That was his route, which, was not what that is nowadays, certainly.
No, right.
And he was just selling to the salons out there, permanent wave rods and bobby pins. And eventually he got what's that? Sorry?
It seems like a tough sell, man.
It was a tough sell, but eventually he got some business going and borrowed $200 from his brother-in-law and said, I'm going to buy a truckload of this stuff myself and sell it. And he did that and started going to these, salons and beauty shops, I guess, as they were referred to at that time, and selling this stuff. And it just slowly snowballed where they would buy one thing from him, and then he got some shampoo lines, and then he got a couple other things. But I think the thing that he did, which I think really made an impact on the business, is he wasn't a hairdresser, but he realized that, you can have all this stuff, but if you don't teach people how to use it, you're not doing any good.
Right.
So he learned, he couldn't have been less of a hairdresser. He did not have that kind of vision for doing that kind of stuff. He learned how to do perms and would not only, he'd say, I'm going to sell you these rods and these bobby pins and these wave products, but I'm also going to show you how to do it. And kind of with those in hand, that kind of set up a little bit of the model of the professional beauty industry, where I'm not just going to give you the products, I'm going to tell you how to use them and make your guests or customers look great and teach you how to be successful.
That's kind of genius,
Wow.
if you think about it.
That's amazing.
That is pretty.
That's someone who's thinking way ahead, because it sounds like nothing like that was around, right?
I think there was maybe some people in other parts of the country, but he knew customer service. He knew that the salon or the hairstylist success would be his success. So he realized that just giving people these rods or giving them these bobby pins and not showing them how to use them, that's just making a sale. I'm not creating a relationship. I'm not helping them succeed. And, if I do help them succeed, in the end, I'll do succeed and I'll grow my business. And so that's what he did. And I know their first big line, I was talking to my dad the other day, their first big line, they had Redken, which I think was probably the first significant professional line. And that was a line they had back in maybe the 50s wow. that they really kind of took off with or started on an upward trajectory with. That's
incredible. That's what's the old adage? Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. And his grandfather kind of figured that out, right? So he taught him how to fish.
Yep.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So how did your dad get into it then?
So my dad was actually, it's actually my mother's dad started at Davidson, and my parents went to Ohio State, moved back here because my mom was a DC native. And my dad was going to go to law school and just started working, I think, in the warehouse or maybe selling some, maybe he had a couple sales outlets. He had a couple salons that he called on, started working there and just saw this kind of vision for exploding what my grandfather had already built. And so with that, they started to make relationships with some other distributors. They were real tight with the Redken people. I know Paula Kent, who started Redken, and I think it was Jerry Redding was the other guy. I didn't even know this until the other day. That's where the Redken came from, Redding and Paula Kent. Did you guys know that?
No.
I didn't know that either.
I knew that, but I came up in the Redken world, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
So they did that, and those people were of the same mindset that let's give stylists and salons business information and information on how to provide better services to their guests so they'll come back and back and back. And so, they blew that out and were one of the first people to start having classes, both technical and business classes, showing the stylists or the salon how to be successful. And based on that reputation, they were able to get other brands to come on board. Well, I think it was the reverse. Other brands who were nothing at the time, like a Matrix or a Paul Mitchell, kind of came to them and said, "We got something really good. Would you be opposed to carrying it?" And my dad tells a story all the time about, JP literally waiting outside their door when they had a warehouse on Park Road in DC, saying, I'm gonna stay here until you guys agree to carry this line.
Wow.
And he was getting picked up, I think, by his sister-in-law because he didn't have enough money to stay at a hotel or to get a cab. And it seemed like a pretty good decision to pick up that line.
That's pretty fun. I thought I heard a story where JP, did he used to be like a rep in the area or something? Didn't he used to sell products in the area for one of the distributors?
Yeah, he's from the area.
I don't know.
He was him and Gino.
Yeah, Gino told a story.
Yeah, I don't know what he was a rep, but it is funny if you're interested. My dad told me the story about how they literally picked up Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell was the stylist. Paul Mitchell, not JP, lived in Hawaii and was like a stylist of note. And they were having him in for a class, I think, at the Mayflower Hotel down in DC, and they had like 1,200 people signed up to come take a class at the Mayflower, which sounds like a significant amount of people back then to come to an educational class. And he said, Ken, I've come up with some potions and lotions and styling stuff, and I'd really like you to carry it. And I think my dad said, that's really great, Paul. And you should be super proud of yourself. But we got bigger fish to fry. We got Helene Curtis and we got all this other stuff that now probably sounds funny. And he said, listen, I'm going to come down to do this show. I don't know if I can get the results with the products that I'm using or that you already carry that I would get with my own stuff. So if you don't mind, there's a distributor in Pennsylvania who's cutting me off. I'll drive all the stuff down in a truck, sell it at the show, and if you don't like it, I'll take it all back.
Wow.
And I don't think they had a problem selling it, and it was just kind of, the rest is history from there.
That's incredible, right? What a cool story.
It amazes me how things come together.
I know it is, right?
Yeah.
Right. And just like, and it's hard to think that at some point Paul Mitchell wasn't a name in our industry, right? So
Yeah.
to kind of like think about like how it was perseverance and maybe desperation too that got him into that got him the relationship with Davidson's.
Yeah, a billionaire or two later.
A couple billionaires later.
Yeah, I always think about it that, you always hear people tell these rags to riches stories. And, not that you guys are rags to riches, but, in your own business, you've seen you guys started just, hey, we'll do a podcast. And now it's something that tons of people listen to. But these guys, when I've heard JP or Arnie Miller from Matrix, when they told their stories, we grinded it out, we knocked on doors, we sat outside, you kind of think to yourself, oh, this is BS. But it's really not.
It's really not.
They work 25 hours a day to get these businesses off and believed in it more than anybody else. It's pretty amazing.
Honestly, what we've learned in the last 18, and I'm sure you've learned this a couple of times, Michael, is that's the secret sauce.
Yep.
Right. That's the secret sauce to being, and I don't want to use the word successful, but to having, to create something. It just takes that effort to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Being relentless.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
That hustle in a good way is what it's all about. Not the negative aspect of hustle, but kind of having that hustle and just being honest and kind of not an asshole. Excuse my French. Is what it's all about. Yeah.
That's all right. We kind of live in trying not to be an asshole, but sometimes we fail at that as well. So Michael, is your mom's maiden name Davidson?
Yep. Yeah. Judy Davidson.
Judy Davidson.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I can't, for people that are outside of the DC area that may be listening, I can't tell you how big Davidson was. I mean, Davidson was, and I think, is it the same? Is it now did Cosmoprof take that over or I'm sure there was a chain around by that, but because I know that the Davidson, what used to be the Davidson stores are now Cosmoprof stores.
Yep. Yeah. So it was initially, they were bought by Alberto Culver, who had just bought, I think, Sally's, which is obviously a different animal, but yeah, now they're all Cosmoprof. And I don't know how many stores they have. I think I haven't been in it so long, but I know that that the distribution business and the whole professional beauty business is so different from what it was 20 years ago.
Completely. I mean, we got in the industry 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember like being in hair school and getting our Davidson's card and how proud you were of that. It's kind of like getting your desk or getting on the floor or something. You're like, man, I got a Davidson card. Like I'm part of some club now, right? Remember that feeling? It was so cool.
Well, for me, it was so cool because, all the girls I went to high school with, if I could get them a Davidson card,
you were popular, right?
Yeah. Connection, because they couldn't get this stuff. They could walk in and get it. But those days are long over. After the company sold, I got calls from people. I've had a Davidson card for 15 years. They won't let me in anymore.
Nope.
Sorry, I can't help you now.
You have to go to the salon and pay full price. Sorry.
Like, thanks, Dad. I lost a lot of friends now.
Yeah, what more? He needed to get his priorities straight.
Right. Come on, Ken.
Right.
Hook us up, man. That's hilarious.
So it sounds like the whole family has the entrepreneurial spirit.
Right? No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, everybody did. Even my mother was involved in Davidson. She was very involved in the education side, and so she really believed that creating success for the hairstylist and salon owner was what was going to make Davidson successful and stylists and salon successful. And so they just did so much education. I don't know if they did more than other distributors, but they were pushing it big time, whether it be Gino or getting guest artists in or whoever it was. It was all about education, learning, growing, teaching people things that they were never exposed to before. So I just grew up in a real entrepreneurial family. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. My grandfather was obviously a big entrepreneur, and I always wanted to. From the time I was in high school, I was the kid selling gum, buying a pack of gum and selling gum, and then when I was in college, having numerous kind of silly failed businesses. But I always wanted to do something on my own. I was proud of what my parents had done. I didn't think I'd ever be in the industry, but I always knew I wanted to do something myself and kind of really make a name or plot out my own kind of piece of land. I didn't want to kind of ride on what they had built. Although I was proud of it, I wanted to do my own thing.
Do you have siblings, Michael?
Yeah, I have a sister.
And how is her entrepreneurial spirit?
I wouldn't say that she's an entrepreneur. She's a teacher.
Okay.
But she did work at the company for a while. So I don't know that she's an entrepreneur, but she definitely gets it. She's one of these people who can get along with anyone. She actually was HR at the company for a while and was just kind of the person that everybody goes to. They have a problem or want to tell something good. She's just one of these really special, kind people that kind of brings people together. I'd love to have her as part of the business just because she creates that family atmosphere that you can depend on me, will be around for whatever you need type of feeling.
Love that. So before you started the grooming lounge, what kind of day jobs did you have before the spirit caught you?
Well, when I got out of college, I studied journalism. I wanted to be a writer, but specifically, I thought I was really good in what I think one of the only things I'm good at, a master of a lot of things. I mean, a jack of all trades, but really kind of a master of none. I was a really good writer. And so I studied journalism. And when I got out of school, I wanted to get a job in advertising, writing copy. And they weren't really giving those jobs out. So I went to a Davidson show, and one of the reps from Paul Mitchell was there. And I said, is there anybody, you guys ever need anybody in advertising or marketing? And he put me in touch with a woman who ran Paul Mitchell's advertising agency out in California, and talked to her on the phone. And she said, oh yeah, we just had a woman who was kind of our assistant or our associate in PR leave. Send me a few writing samples, and if you want the job, come on out. This was in Sonoma County, California. I was 22 years old. I just said, okay. So got in my car and drove out there and started doing PR and advertising for Paul Mitchell. So that was my first real toe dip into the industry outside of what I had done with my family. It was just an awesome experience.
Did the connection between Paul Mitchell and your dad help get the job? Or
I'm sure it didn't hurt. I'm sure it didn't hurt. I don't think he put in a word for me, but the woman's name was Roz Johnson, who had done Paul Mitchell's advertising forever. And she was kind of a 40-year-old spiritual hippie who had grown up with Paul Mitchell and JP, and so much so that she wanted to have her office not in LA where they were, or in that LA area, but she was up in Sonoma, and she lived on like a winery type thing, and her husband was a designer, and she was a real free spirit, but had a knack for knowing advertising and good marketing and good branding. And so she gave me a shot. I went out there and worked my ass off, soaked up as much as I could for a couple years, and then moved on from there. But I got a ton of great experience out there and met a lot of industry people, and it was a great company to work for, and she was amazing to work for.
I love that. Yeah. So from the Paul Mitchell gig, what happened after that?
So I worked there for a while, and Sonoma County in California is like such a great, beautiful place. But when you're like 22 and single, that's not the place to be. It's people.
You can't drop the Davidson's card.
Nobody wants a Davidson's card there. Nobody's interested. So I wanted to go be in a more metropolitan city where there was some more young people and kind of continue my career. So I had a bunch of friends from college that lived in Chicago, and I just moved without a job because there wasn't, whatever all those job boards are now. They didn't exist. I just hopped in a car, drove to Chicago, moved in with a couple friends, and got a job at a PR and advertising agency called Ketchum, which is a big agency, and my account worked on a Miller Brewing account. So did marketing and advertising and copywriting for Miller. And then kind of my claim to fame there was that we got the job to reintroduce, do you remember the Life cereal commercials with Mikey?
Yeah, sure.
When kind of
Are you Mikey?
I'm not Mikey. I am Mikey, but I'm not that Mikey. But yeah, that was our big thing, is that we came up with the idea to reintroduce a new Mikey, 30 years after he had originally launched. And so we did that, and it was this huge PR coup for Life cereal, and we went all around the country looking for the new Mikey. So between that and Miller Beer, I did PR and advertising for them in Chicago, and lived there for about 4 or 5 years. And that's kind of where a little bit of the nugget or the idea for Grooming Lounge came about, because on a trip home from Chicago to visit my folks, and when they were having one of these Davidson Mid-Atlantic beauty shows, I would come in, I would go to their show, I would help out, I would, I'm sure screw registers up and, do all that kind of sense. I would always grab bags full of junk, all the stuff that people were giving out. And I would take those bags, and then I'd see my friends who I hadn't seen forever at home. And these are not what I would categorize, I'm sure they're all very successful and do well now, but I wouldn't call them, super well-groomed guys. I wouldn't have put them in that metrosexual category back then. And I remember whatever we had, there was eye cream, there was shampoo, there were bath salts. And I gave them this stuff, and I very clearly remember my friend Andrew calling me like a week or two afterwards and saying, "Gilman, like, that bath salt you gave me is amazing." And a light bulb went off, and I said, this guy is like, one, he's bathing. Two, like, he's sitting in bath salts. I cannot believe it. There's got to be a market here. And then I just put it on the back burner for a bit, but that really made me think. This was probably 96, 97. It just put kind of a little light bulb above my head that said, there could really be something here. If these slobs are doing this, imagine what a guy who really needs to take care of himself and wants to look good would do. Because every time I'd ask them, like, why don't you get the eye cream yourself? Or if you're losing your hair, go to your stylist and get something. They say, oh man, she's cute. I feel like an idiot. I'm embarrassed. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So that kind of started the process. That was the first kind of light bulb that went off for men's grooming being a big thing in the Grooming Lounge.
Because back in the 90s, it was only salons and barbershop, like old school barbershop.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of anything that was for men. Absolutely.
And even we kind of came up in the industry in the 90s, and there wasn't even we weren't overwhelmed with men in the salons anyways.
No, because it was just becoming unisex salons, right? Like in the late 80s or in the 80s, like it carried into the 90s. There was no men's grooming.
Nope. There was the $12 barbershop. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there was that. And then there was salons or go to haircuttery. That was it.
Yeah, that was it. Have you thanked Andrew for your career?
I have.
For being a slob. Did you thank Andrew for being a slob?
I always tell them this. I don't think they read or listen to podcasts, so I don't know if they'll hear this. But yeah, I have I'm still friendly with all those guys, and I always joke with them that they were kind of the reason that this whole thing started.
Right. You disgusting pigs.
You slobs.
Right. Changing America.
By the way, I think they have discontinued their grooming practices based on more recent.
Right. Are you saying they're slobs again?
I'm just not. I'm saying they're not taking. I think people take better care of themselves.
Somebody took the fifth.
That's awesome. All right, so let's fast forward up. So you go, wow, there's a market here, right? So how did it go, and what was the next steps in that?
Yeah. So after that, I moved to New York. I lived in New York for about 4 years with my current, not my current, I don't have any others, but my wife, and went back and forth to beauty shows. And then when I worked in marketing and PR there and moved back to DC because I knew that Davidson was going to eventually sell based on some conversations I had with my dad. And I said, I just want to be in there and help. I don't even care about getting paid or anything. I just want to be part of the company in some aspect before it's sold, because it's my family history and everybody's, it afforded me a nice lifestyle growing up. And I appreciate it. I wanted to kind of be part of it. So I moved back to DC, started working for them, went to a show, and at that show, I ran into Peruse, who was my former business partner who worked at Jungle Care.
Right.
I don't know if you guys remember Jungle Care.
Totally.
I don't know if it's still around.
Michael, you know what? I might have a bottle of Jungle Care floating around somewhere. But it was like, again, I mean, Peruse being on the front end of that market too. I mean, it was like the first like all kids brand that I kind of knew.
Yeah. So Davidson carried Jungle Care.
How'd you know Peruse? Was that just through Davidson?
I didn't know him at all. Bobby, who had started that, and I won't even try to pronounce Bobby's last name. I know we just called him Bobby Batman, who started Jungle Care. And I don't know what Peruse was there. I think he basically ran the company, was his right-hand man. And they had a huge booth and they were doing blowouts of little girls' hair at the show. They had a giant booth and we're doing blowouts. And went over and just started chatting with him. And I was very into photography at the time, and he was very into doing photo shoots and stuff like that, and called me up a couple weeks later and said, "Hey, you know what? I really enjoyed talking to you. We should do a business together." And I said, "All right, let's chat." We met at a place called Tubby's Diner in Beltsville, Maryland.
Oh boy.
Down the street from Davidson, and said, "I don't know what the idea is, but let's come up with something. Let's do something. Sounds good." And I think later on, we had subsequent meetings. I relayed the story about my friends. And then I also relayed the story about how before I got married, my wife said, "You got to go get a manicure. Your nails are gross." And I went into a women's nail salon, and it wasn't their issue. It was my issue. I liked getting the manicure, but I felt, super uncomfortable, just like my friends had said they felt uncomfortable going into women's salon to get stuff done. I felt super uncomfortable. I said, you know what, if I could get this at a place that I felt comfortable, where I could watch TV, and I wasn't, out in the open, it would be great. And, we batted around these ideas back and forth, and he was a hairdresser and did a lot of men's hair. And we said, God, wouldn't it be cool if we could create not only shops for guys that could do this to get services that they currently get, like haircuts, but do it in an environment that makes them feel comfortable, but also they would get services they would never think about because they were too embarrassed or unenlightened about what the benefits were. Like facials or even waxing, that guys would say, like, I'm not going to get this done because I I feel like an ass going in there. I'm totally self-conscious. So we said, what if we could create destinations for guys, one being a store and one being a website where guys could go to get the products they need and the advice they need to use those products. So that was it. And we said, we had no idea how to do it, but I consider myself a sharp business guy. I knew that Peruse could talk to anybody about anything. And we said, between the two of those, we'll figure something out. And so we started getting to work on some kind of business plan to open up our first grooming lounge shop and website too.
So I'm just trying to say, so you're at did you guys know immediately, like once you're like, okay, let's do this? I mean, let's how long did it take you to kind of like jump 2 feet in, so to speak?
I went in right away. I thought it was a fantastic idea.
Well, it was your idea. Of course you thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we came up with it together, but I thought it was good too. And I knew that I knew I needed a way to support myself, but maybe you're too dumb or ignorant at that time, which I was, to think that failure was an option. I was like, this is a good thing. This will work. Right. There's tons of guys who want to take care of themselves, who have no outlet to do it and are too embarrassed to get not only mainstream stuff like shampoo, but forget about getting something if you have bags under your eyes or are embarrassed about going to the beach with hairy shoulders. Like there was nothing out there. So I knew that was a home run, and we both thought it was a home run, but we soon realized that not everybody else thought it was really the same home run that we did very quickly after we wrote up a business plan.
But I mean, between the two of you guys, I mean, with your marketing background and writing background and his, hairdressing background, I mean, it does sound like a marriage made in heaven, right? I mean, if you're going to do an online business and a storefront, I get the best of both worlds between the both of you.
Yeah, it was really good. And we both had, I considered us both, and Peruse probably even to a bigger extent to me, and this is a compliment, customer service snobs, meaning like we would just complain like, oh, I went here and this person was so rude, or I went there and I didn't get great service. And we both came to the point where we said, service is so bad everywhere. Imagine if your service is just good. Right. Not to mention if it's amazing. So if you give guys just unbelievable service and really care about them and really be empathetic and genuine, the places you can go and the kind of raving fans you'll create would be amazing. So we both had that aspect in addition to, the idea and the drive to make it work. And so all those things together kind of set us down a path for success.
That's amazing. You mentioned earlier that that not everybody thought it was a great idea. Did you guys have trouble with funding?
Yeah. I just think like everybody. I remember right when we started, we wanted to open a shop right away. Right. And we wanted to open it in DC because that's where we're both located. But we wanted to be kind of on a corner of Main and Main. We didn't want to be in a side strip mall with this kind of concept just because we thought it would be, we needed some awareness. Right. So when we went to the big landlords downtown with this business plan about opening a upscale men's barbershop and spa that was going to charge at that time, $40 or $50 for a haircut and provide manicures and stuff like that, I very clearly remember the landlord who's now our landlord. One of the guys saying, it's a terrific idea and good for you, Mike, thumbs up, but no guy in DC is paying $50 for a haircut or getting a manicure on a Tuesday. So, I really applaud your entrepreneurial spirit, but go out there and prove your concept and then come back to me a little bit later. So that didn't make us feel, super confident. So we said, oh, you know what? Screw them. We'll start this website. And that was right at the time of the .com boom. And so we went to all these places to build us a website, and they were literally telling us, well, we could build you a great website for $500,000. We can do it for $1 million. And so that's when we kind of looked at each other and were like, what are we going to do? Like, right. Had like 12 grand between us. And we found a way to create a Yahoo online store for $4,000, designed end to end. And we put up our 15 products that we were carrying on there. And we did the pick, pack, and ship out of my basement. And did that for a long time until we were able to get enough press, since we were the first ones in that market, able to get enough press from Playboy and GQ and Esquire and all these places. And with that, we were able to go to the landlord, and the landlord then said, well, you got me now. I'm kind of interested. Just put your house up and
Whoa.
and we'll rent you the space. But we believed in it enough, and there was a lot of trials and tribulations with the website. But some success that we had there enabled us to convince a landlord to give us a spot.
Okay, back up a little bit. There's
I have your
so
house.
many questions.
You still have your house?
I have a new house, but not that much bigger. I'm not bragging that's the new house. The house I lived in was so small, and it was pick, pack, and ship in the basement. And my wife did all the pick, packing, and shipping, and would take the 4 orders that we got a day on groominglounge.com to the post office.
Wow.
That's how it works.
Oh my goodness. I have so many questions, Michael. Back up again. Let's sit back at the table in Beltsville or wherever this happened. But like, how'd you come up with the name, and what were the other names that you guys were considering?
They were terrible. The other names. I remember we had a name, and we actually bought from, I can't remember there was no GoDaddy back then, but the second we had an idea, we would go get the domain name.
Sure.
So I think Peruse had the name Orange Flip, which was terrible. And we laughed about that. But we were like, that's different. And
now it's Orange Theory.
Right. And we were calling it like Capital Men's Grooming, since it was going to be in DC, or DC Grooming. And I think one time we were just sitting around, and I said, what about like Grooming Lounge? That sounds like a really good name, because there's a lounger where guys are going to sit. And it's not, if you call it Salon or something, at that time, I think some guys would be scared off. It's certainly more mainstream now, and you wouldn't have that trepidation from guys. But the name just came, and the second we heard it, I don't even know if Peru said it or if I said it. I honestly have no idea.
I'm sure Peruse will take credit.
He can take credit. That's great. We both just knew that was the name, and just rolled with it, and got that website domain. And it's funny now, because for better or worse, Grooming Lounge is like the Q-Tips name for an upscale men's barbershop.
Sure.
If you do a Google search, it's Ted's Grooming Lounge, Bob's Grooming Lounge, Elephant in the Room Grooming Lounge.
Right.
They're all over the place. It's
That's
not good
cool,
for us search engine wise, but I guess it's good, because I'll have people who come and say, "Oh yeah, I just visited your store in Texas, and I really enjoyed it." And I would say, "Well,
wow.
we don't have a store in Texas."
So you said that you were selling like products off of the website, but those weren't Grooming Lounge products, right? What were you selling?
No, we had. I remember the exact brands that we had. Now there was maybe 2 men's brands at the time, and we launched the website. We came up with the idea in like '99, and I think we launched the website in late 2000, like right around the holidays.
Right.
We opened it to crickets. It was quite an event. There was a brand called Anthony Logistics. There was a guy, Anthony, out of New York, who created his own line. So we carried his full line, which might have been like 8 products. We carried a product called Heavy Duty, which I don't even know where they are now. They had like some hand creams and lotions. We carried True Fit and Hill, which is a famous British brand. I think they had the oldest barbershop in the world in London.
It's pretty cool.
We also carried a couple Molton Brown SKUs. Somehow I became friendly with the woman who distributed Molton Brown. And we carried a couple Molton Brown. All in all, we probably had 20 SKUs. And I think we carried Nioxin too, because we knew there was a lot of guys with thinning hair who wanted some products. So we probably had 20 or 25 SKUs on this website. And we also had a lot of advice that we had written up that Peruse and I put together with barber friends of ours or stylist friends of ours to answer questions, because we knew that guys didn't know where to get the products, but we knew even more so they had no idea how to use the products.
You're all the way back to Harry, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we did. And it was a pick, pack, and ship out of our basement. Every order got faxed in. The fax machine would go off, through Yahoo, and I would hop out of bed no matter where I was. Like it was.
So how did you find those brands?
Just did a lot of research. Like some of them I heard through Davidson, and we couldn't necessarily carry salon brands because we didn't really have a shop at that time, and no salon brands wanted to sell online because things have changed a bit, I think. I'm not sure.
You said did Davidson's carry any men's brands or no? It was just.
Oh, you know what they had? We carried Crew. We had American Crew. So Crew was the brand. They had been around a couple of years. So we carried a lot of American Crew, but Crew and that Anthony Logistics, those were the only 2 men's brands. There there were some sub brands from some of the other brands, like Sebastian might have had a men's brand or something, but we didn't carry that. But Crew was a big one. Yeah, I totally spaced on American Crew.
That's cool. So then you had the website, and then your landlord was like, "Yeah, cool. Let's we'll take a chance on you now."
Well, how much as much as you're taking a chance when you have to fully guarantee your lease, they took a chance.
Yeah. You need to listen to the podcast we did with Peter Mahoney.
Yeah.
He did a podcast called what was it called?
7 Pitfalls.
No, the leasing one. Leasing for profit. It's called Leasing for Profit, and what not to put up in your lease if you're going to do it for profit.
Yeah, I get it. If we had another option, I would have been all in.
Touche.
Option.
When you're young, sometimes that's all you have, right?
Yeah, and it was a small house. It wasn't very big. So
how much was the website doing to get the attention of the landlord, or being like, oh, okay, that maybe these guys can make a go of it?
I think it was more the press that we were getting, because we were literally the only game in town selling multiple men's brands online.
Right.
And the internet wasn't what it was today. So, people weren't searching everywhere. So once they found out about us and what we carry, they would come right to our site. But I think it wasn't so much the sales that we had online, although we were doing better and better. It was more so the publicity that we were able to generate by having this website. And most people just looked at it. And the angle I took, being an old kind of PR guy, was, hey, here's stuff for the closeted guy, not sexually, obviously, the closeted guy who wants to look good, who wants to be the metrosexual, who wants to have great skin, great hair, and all this stuff, but is too embarrassed. He can sit in his underwear on his computer and order all the stuff he needs to look and feel better. And so we had all that stuff, whether it was shaving stuff or hair removal stuff or eye cream. We had a good selection of that stuff, so the guy wouldn't even have to leave his house to go get that stuff.
I love that.
So your PR marketing background was, did you kind of hunt these articles out like a Playboy or GQ or
1000%. I mean, I was the PR guy, so I would call the editor and say, you have grooming articles all the time. We've got a site where a guy can get the stuff he needs to take care of bags under his eyes, or he can get help for thinning hair. And he can come, and we'll also give him advice on how to use it. We'll ship it right to his door. He doesn't even have to leave his house to get this stuff. And it was an easy, I've done hard pitches in the past for things like trying to sell beer through PR is hard. Everybody's got beer. Nobody's got like this emotional attachment to beer. But, this was helping guys feel better and look better about themselves. And there was also kind of a funny nature. Guys are able to make fun of themselves, and we were able to make fun of themselves that guys are kind of in these back alleys. We were like the drug dealers of men's grooming. Like, hey, come and get this eye cream, or get this moisturizer, or get this whatever to take the hair off your chest. And there was kind of a humor to it, and there was also a practical use for it. So when I called these, it was an easy pitch, whether it was GQ or Esquire or Men's Health or Maxim, all these magazines that were out at that time. They were like, oh yeah, great. We'll write about it. We'll write about the products that you guys carry. No problem. And then when we told them that we were going to open a store too, that was even lower hanging fruit, because it didn't exist at the time.
I love this so much. And I remember, because, again, at that point we had known Peruz for a long time as well. So just kind of watching his growth and stuff, I know that I was fully engaged in it, and I was fully engaged in, like, whenever a magazine did, I go, oh, that's Peruz's company again. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. And your marketing was, we won't give Peruz credit for that. We'll give Michael all the credit for that. But just your PR and stuff on it was amazing. Cause I remember, cause it made me a believer, not just because my friend was doing it, but because of what you guys were doing it. And I think I mentioned it in the opening, like I thought you guys were crazy. Like, there just wasn't this space. And I was a lot like your landlord, like, come on, how are you going to make this work? Guys aren't going to do that,
Yeah. You're not the only one. I had multiple family members, and even one of my closest college friends, who was one of the guys who I'd given stuff to. We went to a football game at Ohio State right when we were about to open the store. And he said, right as I remember getting on a plane, and he said, so what's your next job going to be after this doesn't work?
I hope you send him a card every year. Grooming Lounge birthday, you send him a card every year.
Yeah. He sells pizza franchises, so I give him a lot of crap now. He does very well at it, but he does franchise. But you know what? I think we just believed in what we were doing so much. It really didn't tweak me. Like, it didn't raise my anxiety levels. I thought it was a home run. I've had plenty of things since then that I did not think were a home run. I've got anxious about, but I guess, you really didn't have anything to lose. Because you didn't have that much. And I just knew it would work because there's just so many men out there who want to feel good about themselves and look good. So it didn't seem like that big of a risk. Maybe it did to other people, but Peruse and I felt super confident about it.
Love that.
And obviously, I mean, it did work.
Yep.
I even we had a friend, Mary, she worked there,
Oh yeah.
And even working there, she said the education was great. The customer service was, second to none.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was busy and everybody charged the same rate, and it was brilliant.
I mean, kind of even like to what old Harry did. Like, they took the responsibility to, not only is their customer or the client, but their customer is also the stylist that work behind the chair. And I know that, like you said, you brought up Mary Goodman, and
I love Mary. Do you guys work with her?
Yeah. We've known Mary forever.
Oh, yeah. Mary's great. I always had a great relationship with Mary. Yeah.
Yeah. She's amazing. But she only spoke real super highly of you guys and what you guys and what you produced as a company.
Yeah. Mary Goodman's mom, before she moved away, was my client.
Okay. All right.
So I knew Mary when she was in high school. She used to come in. Yeah. But yeah, Mary was wonderful.
He's great, right?
Nice.
So, Mary, we just gave you a shout out, dog. I hope you listen.
Yeah. Follow Mary at something.
I don't know. I don't know what her Instagram is. We got to go find Mary. If you listen to this, reach out to us.
She needs to call me. I haven't talked to her forever.
Yeah. Give her our stuff. Okay. So Michael, also early on in the game, and this is kind of before like Harry, speaking of Harry, this is before like Harry's, and this is before like the Dollar Shave Club and stuff. Like, you guys really made an impact on like shaving and stuff. And, I think the first Mach 3 I ever saw was with you guys.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of our core competency was shaving at the beginning, because men's skincare and heavy duty men's skincare was a little ways off. Not that guys didn't want it, but the kind of the muscle behind it didn't really exist. And you needed guys to toe dip a little, and you could get guys into skincare and stuff through shaving. And so we really focused on shaving, specifically doing a hot lather shave in our shops. And so before we opened Grooming Lounge, Peruse and I said, well, we have to offer the shave. We're not going to do as many shaves as we do haircuts, but that's like a signature service. That's something that doesn't exist, that people aren't doing around here. So that's definitely kind of something that is a PR or marketing point, that you can go in here and get this amazing hot lather shave. Problem is, we had no idea how to do it, because they don't teach it. And I don't think they teach like a luxurious hot lather shave in barber school. And I know they don't teach it in cosmetology school.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't learn it.
Yeah. I didn't learn it either.
So was
the initial thought to do it with straight razors?
Yeah. I'll tell you the story real quick. It's a good story. So this one might be don't cut this one out. The story is, so Peruse and I were like, how are we going to figure out a shave to do here? And so we booked a couple tickets to go to London with our significant others, and said, we're just going to go get shaves at all these places that have been doing it for literally hundreds of years. We're going to go get shaves at all these places. We're going to talk to all these guys and see which one is the best. And whichever one is the best, we'll create our own version of it. So we went to, George Trumper's, which is a place that's been doing shaves over there for hundreds of years. True Fit and Hill, which is the world's oldest barbershop. There was a couple new fashion places over there, and we got shaves at all of them. They were all straight razor, hot towel shaves. And we walked out of every session saying to each other, we looked at each other, kind of not wanting to really admit it. And I would look at him and say, that kind of hurt like shit. That didn't feel that great. And he would say, I didn't want to say anything, but like my neck's breaking out. It feels terrible. So we came back from that trip kind of still scratching our heads, saying, it's
scratching your face,
scratching our faces and our heads, right? Pulling out our ingrowns and saying, that it was a cool experience. It was kind of that spaghetti Western thing where you're getting this hot lather shave and you feel like a big shot, but the result has to be amazing. Like, people aren't going to be happy if it's all sizzle and no steak? So I don't even know how we connected with, there's a guy named Aiden Gill in New Orleans who runs a barbershop called Aiden Gill for Men. And he was doing this before we were doing it. He doesn't do the spa side, but the barber side. And he was an Irish barber, and he's a character. You guys should have him on one time. Although I don't know what your delay is, because every other word out of his mouth is F. But such a great guy and good mentor to us. And he said, why don't you guys come down for a day? I'm going to show you what I do. And basically,
how'd you connect with them?
I think I had found it online. I think they had a website, and I looked at their services, and I was like, we got to get down there and pick this guy's brain. Because this guy is doing the high end men's barbering services in this old classic atmosphere. And that's who he is. Like, he's an old school Irish barber, bow tie every day. I was like, this guy isn't making up, this isn't marketing. This is who this guy is. We got to pick his brain and see how he does things. So we went down there, and he, in some flowery terminology, said, why would I shave with he's like, I used to give straight edge shaves night and day. I did it for 15 years. Why would I give somebody a shave with a technology that was invented 200 years ago?
Boom.
Why wouldn't I do it with a blade that was invented last year from a company who spends millions and millions of dollars on technology? And we said, yeah, that sounds like a smart idea. And so we kind of came up together with, basing off his core idea, because I definitely don't want to take credit for it, like creating something that meshed tradition and technology. So you take the tradition in the terms of the hot towels, application of shave oil, multiple applications of shave lather, and the technology is in the form of, you use a triple blade razor on a self-designed handle, so the barber or stylist has access to all the different points of the face. So we mix that tradition and technology, and some of the technology came in the form of amazing aftershave products and cooling down products. So you mix those two, and what you ended up was that equal parts tradition, the technology, and ultimately a 40-minute shave, which is the best shave you will ever have. And it worked. People would go, wow. Everybody at the beginning would say, oh, it's not a straight edge, I'm not doing that. And we would say, listen, have the shave. If you don't like it, if it's not the best shave you've ever had, if it's not super relaxing, if it's not the closest one you've had, then just don't pay for it. And nobody complained. And so that's been our shave ever since. And it's ridiculous how comfortable and amazing and relaxing it is. And we've evolved it over the years to add more hot towels and stuff, but it's really an awesome experience. And that's continued to be our signature service since we started.
Wow. Thanks, Aiden.
I know. I wish I could enjoy that, though. Wish I could enjoy that close shave.
Someday, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, get you a shot of whiskey before any service, like Irish whiskey.
That's why it's relaxing.
Yeah. Super relaxing.
Michael, so have you, and seriously, has the beard trend, has that hurt your business at all, or do you still have your core people? I mean, you're in DC, so there's not a lot of beards floating around.
I don't think it's hurt. I think it's helped, because it has, there's still the guys that shave every day, and then there's the guys like me who'll shave maybe once a week, and then there's guys like you who haven't shaved this century. And you're able to offer products for all those guys. There's a whole beard category in the grooming industry that has exploded because of guys who have big beards like you, or guys who have starter beards like me. There's all sorts of products, whether it be trimmers or lotions or beard oils. And so those guys want products to maintain their beards, and the guys who are shaving still want products to shave with. There's just so many guys out there that I don't think, I think there's room enough for everyone to come in with products that address all the different types of facial hair, whether it be big, small, or none.
Michael, dude, I love this guy, man.
Yeah.
Michael, so I mean, like, tell our listeners kind of like how they can get in touch with you, or how they can, all that stuff, or what are you guys up to? What's the future of Grooming Lounge and Michael Gilman? Yeah.
So Grooming Lounge, we have our two shops. We have a store, or a shop in Washington, D.C. on L Street, right kind of in the corner of Main and Main in D.C. And then we have one in Tyson's Galleria, which is a real upscale mall, that I probably would never go into if we didn't have Grooming Lounge there. just because the stuff, it's Saks and Neiman's and Fendi and all this kind of super fancy
And Grooming
stuff.
Lounge.
And the Grooming Lounge, of course. And so we have shops there, and those shops have 6-chair barbershops in each of them, as well as full functioning spas where guys can get skincare, facials, waxing, massage, manicures, pedicures, all that kind of stuff. So we have those two where people can experience Grooming Lounge. And then online at groominglounge.com, we've got the internet's biggest selection of men's grooming products, not only from our own brand, Grooming Lounge, which we're super proud of, but also from a lot of the top brands around the world. And we've curated it down so it's not like a diner menu, which make your head spin. It's the stuff you need to get the best results.
Are you guys still retailing like the handles? The barb.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
Can I give a big shout out for that? Those things are so cool. The razor handles, and it's the Mach 3 heads, right? That you're still using?
Yeah, we do those, but we just started making, there's a huge push now, which we've noticed online more so than in the stores, for double edge razors. A lot of guys are using those old school safety razors now. There's a whole kind of throwback to guys who are into this. I mean, you can go down like a rabbit hole with finding guys who, there's blogs just on wet shaving, which would, make me fall asleep, and I'm in the business. But there's guys who go so deep into that in terms of what brush they use, what razor they use. So we started making our own double edge razors, where you put kind of that old, double edge blade in there, which is significantly cheaper. And some guys think it gets a closer shave than the Mach 3 or the cartridge blades. But yeah, we offer both of those.
Yeah, well, those handles are awesome, and it makes, if you have if you're a female and you have a spouse that shaves, it's a great gift. It's just it says like it's almost like he was saying, it's like old school, like classy with the new technology,
right.
And they're just so cool. And the weight of them are awesome.
They're spot on. They feel so right in your hand.
Yeah, you're right.
The balance of it.
That's it.
Spot on.
It's not like the free ones that you get, with one cartridge.
Yeah, right.
And a coupon to buy 20 others.
It's top heavy.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, no, there's a whole. One of the things that we always say too is, in that why women or partners like to buy them for men is because it also looks good in your bathroom. As opposed to having a disposable. It's like a little piece of art that you have in your bathroom if you have it on a stand and it's hanging up with your brush or whatever it is. So it makes you look better, it makes your bathroom look better, that whole bit.
So do you guys do like a shadowing program, or
like if a business owner wanted to kind of figure out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've given out a lot of advice to people who want to go in the men's business. And I know, I've listened to a bunch of podcasts that you guys have done, and a lot of the advice that salon owners will say, my best advice to people who want to open their own shop is don't. Right. So we've certainly given that advice to people a bunch of times, more so because they weren't in it. Guys who said, oh, I love Grooming Lounge, I visited in DC, I want to open one in Nashville, but I'm a software salesman, but I have a cousin who wants to run it. And we've kind of said, listen, you got to be all in. There's a lot of moving parts. You need to give TLC to every staff member you have and your customers. If you're not there, do not do it. But there's other people who we've had in, and we've tried to mentor a bit. And we have Grooming Lounge. We have our own products too. So we've tried to weave that in a little bit in that old Paul Mitchell style too, where we can give you the products to provide the services. And we also have the educators on site that can teach you how to not only give the haircuts or the shaves, but also teach you retail excellence and business excellence and all that kind of stuff based on what we've learned. I mean, we still don't know it all. I was talking to one of the Summit Salon guys the other day. I don't know if it was Peter, whoever, I talked to him and I got 15 ahas talking to him that I was like, I can't believe it took me, 18 years to learn this stuff. But we're happy to help other people to get and grow the men's business. I view it as good. There's so many guys out there, a rising tide raises all ships, and more people getting in the men's industry is certainly good for everybody. I hope.
Awesome. I think so.
Yeah.
But
totally.
are there other companies retailing Grooming Lounge products?
Well, the story behind them, and when we created them, this was a little us not being, being a little too focused or a little naive, is that we created Grooming Lounge products really just to use in our shops. Like Pruz and I were talking with some of the barbers and stylists, and they said, we're doing these shaves, but I really wish we had a shave oil that did X or Y, or we wish we had an aftershave that was soothing. We're putting these alcohol infused aftershaves on people. And we said, shit, we're pretty smart. We can create some product lines and we'll do it with you guys. And that'll be great because the products will be fantastic, but it's also really a good marketing story that happens to be true. Like they're created by barbers in a working barbershop and used in that barbershop hundreds of times a day. So that's what we did with our shaving products and then our hair products and all that stuff. We literally went back and forth hundreds of times with our barbers and skincare people and drove our manufacturing partners crazy to create the products that our people, the people who make our engine run, wanted to use on their guests. So that's how our products have been rolled out. And since we started in 2005, we've created about 2 or 3 products every year, as much as cash flow could afford to bring into the shop. And so right now, the whole point was that we never really intended on selling them anywhere else, only our own shop. So we did have a couple. We were in Ulta for a while. That was interesting. I don't think a lot of guys are going into Ulta to get their grooming stuff.
No, I think we avoid Ulta.
Yeah. So that wasn't a big hit for us. So we sell right now through our website and through Amazon, which is, everyone's scared of Amazon, but they're also a great partner to sell your products as long as you're the only one selling them and you're not discounting it a huge amount. So that's where we sell. And we sell to a couple independent salons and barbershops where we provide education and follow-up and business insight. But we've never really gone full bore into spreading it wide.
Yeah, I was saying, have you thought about going into the old Davidsons, the Cosmoprops?
We absolutely have, but it's such a different game now.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. And quite honestly, for a small company like us, it's very hard because of the margins. Some people are, the big boys can make a really good product for 50 cents because they're making 50,000 of them at a time or 100,000. For a small guy like us, we're making small batches. We're making 5,000 of a product. So by the time we would sell to a distributor who would then sell to a salon, sometimes the money's just not there to make that happen. So we would probably have to go direct to them. And we might want to go direct anyway because we want to give them our own education and kind of some hand-holding along the way.
Love.
Perfect.
Mr. Michael Gilman, I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this.
Totally. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I really, 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 really enjoyed it, and I love hearing how your story, how your family story has been so connected to our industry, and able to share that's really awesome.
Yeah, just because it's where we grew up. That's what we knew. So
exactly. I mean, like I said, it's like another rung. Not only like our relationship with the Grooming Lounge, but also our relationship with Davidson's, and how much that means to us and our growth in the industry.
Yeah. Well, you guys in your way are continuing that. It's awesome.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. So I'll after this, I want to call you and get your advice because I've always wanted to do like a barbershop podcast. So I'll do a spin-off.
We'll definitely talk about that once we jump off. Mr. Michael Gilman, founder of the Grooming Lounge, grandson of the Davidson's empire.
Heir to the Davidson empire.
Davidson's empire. You and your sister. Dude, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us on your day off.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys.
So earlier in this podcast, we talked about and gave a shout out to a friend of ours, Mary Goodman. Unfortunately, before the release of this podcast, Mary Goodman passed away. So we certainly would like to offer our condolences to both her family and her friends.